In today's video, I'm gonna react to a group of people who are having a discussion on climate change. It should be all about pulling, and let's see in this video if they can create common ground by using pull techniques. Let's go!
My name is Don. I'm a professor of geology and a professional climate scientist. I've published in the field for many years.
My name is Andrew. I studied environmental science policy and management. I'm a consultant that specializes in sustainable tourism.
My name is Natalie. I'm a local government consultant, and I believe that anthropogenic climate change is real.
My name is Michael. I'm the vice president of a nonprofit that concerns itself with the threats to Western civilization.
My name is Dr. James Enstrom. I'm a physicist and epidemiologist, and I'm passionate about scientific integrity.
My name is Keith Hardeen. I'm a constitutional rights activist, and I'm concerned about the future of the next generations.
May I please have my activists to the left and my skeptics to the right?
Wow! This is a great bunch of people together, highly educated, looking forward to it.
I believe global warming should be our #1 concern.
There's obviously a lot of issues that our politicians deal with and that as a society we can care about, but if our Earth is moving in a direction to where our species cannot survive, then homelessness, then all of the other issues that are out there are going to be irrelevant because we won't have a place to live.
I agree that there are
Interesting, because whatever she says, for sure these two people will agree with it, because they're already on the same page. They more or less share the same belief. So a little bit of pushing can do no harm in this situation.
There are many issues that are important at the local level, and we are not doing a great job with a lot of things. But things like extreme droughts, extreme heat waves, and devastating hurricanes and tornadoes are going to make life harder on us no matter where we come from, no matter what our economic background.
Really, if you want to look at it as an issue of health, I don't see why everyone wouldn't be concerned and everyone wouldn't be participating in ways to reduce the impact of climate change or reverse global warming.
Interesting, because this is exactly why people think that if you push, you can also reach people, that you can also make a statement and people will react positive to it. The thing is, these three people are already on the same page. So if they do a little bit of pushing, it's okay. They already agree. Let's see what the other people do. I'm really curious here.
No matter what the United States does, it's not going to make an impact on the worldwide greenhouse gas emissions as long as China and other parts of the world.
Probably doesn't know. But the guy on the right, the activist, the human rights activist, he's giving support to the guy he already likes. And that's the guy who's doing all these statements. So let's see where it continues.
The world are increasing the greenhouse emissions. It puts the United States at an economic disadvantage when we try to transform our lives, and the other countries just simply ignore these efforts.
The United States seems to be the most held responsible for the global warming, for doing something about it. And that's what bothers me. You know, we have a constitution, and nobody ever considers that constitution the importance of protecting the natural rights of the individual. And I think global warming is an infringement on those rights. When I say global warming, at least the agenda of the political aspect of it.
I think it's time to change how we live.
Okay, so I think it's clear if you see it is that you have the environmental activists, you have the skeptic people, and more or less they said to each other, okay, this is how I see it and this is how I see it. So from this point on, both parties should start doing pulling. Let's see if they do it.
Really do, which we have seen how changing our habits, changing the resources that we use and what we pump into the air, and how we reversed that hole in the ozone, we've seen how it can change, and we can change it, but we're going to have to make changes.
Well, I don't believe that climate change is our biggest problem because I don't believe that man has any.
Okay, she fully disagree, and she starts by saying it, I fully disagree. And let's see if it really helps to change the mind of the other people.
Thing to do with it. Climate has changed since before man existed on the planet and will continue when man is gone.
As a professional climate scientist who's done this for 50 years, I'm afraid you're not correct.
It is very clear that he completely disagrees with her. And here the pooling should start. Instead of just saying what he thinks, that doesn't change her mind at all, he's just pushing information again. That's a pity. Let's see how it continues.
The climate evidence is very, very clear. And probably the clearest evidence of all comes from ancient records where we can actually see what the planet was like before humans were involved. This is why climate scientists...
You can see for her face, hey man, whatever you're telling, I don't believe you. I'm skeptical.
99% on almost every study of climate scientists.
She's smiling, but you can see from her face, whatever you're gonna tell me, I just don't believe it. Therefore, he should do pooling.
Shows that we're as unanimous as the scientific community ever gets, and that this evidence is real, and that it's happening, and it's happening on every scale, from the ice caps to the ocean. Every place we look, we get the same answer.
No, I'm not a climate scientist, but I know a lot of them. And I've heard...
In other words, what she's saying, hey, whatever you say, is just not true. I see it completely different.
Exactly the opposite argument made. Thousands of scientists just in the United States signed a letter saying man has little, if any, effect on climate.
So
that's
they're all
clearly,
climate scientists. That's
oh,
the point.
Yes, they
no,
are.
Oh yeah, make it even worse, just interrupt her. So that's all pushing. And what you can see already, both of them are not changing anything in their thoughts. If they would do pulling, I know for sure, at least they will try to understand each other. Interesting. I thought this program was about finding middle ground, common ground.
Actually doing climate research and publishing in it.
Yes, they are.
I don't believe
Yes,
it.
they are.
I know
Beautiful. They just say to each other, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. That's clear. They don't believe each other.
people who have been affected by environmental regulations.
Yes. Jeez.
It's clear. He's got an opinion on that.
Wow, everybody agrees on this one.
I have a very good friend. He is a trucker. He was able to be successful and maintain a career for 40 years. He was stopped in that career because of claims that his diesel truck was killing people through the exhaust. There was a program in Los Angeles called the Clean Truck Program that basically put him out of work because he couldn't afford to buy a new truck. So this is the kind of environmental regulation that hurts real people, and especially here in Southern California.
I'll say also that many of the people who own homes, they're not allowed to water their lawns. Why? Because of environmental regulation laws, which are suppressing, again, suppressing the natural right to use water.
It seems like an underlying issue with you guys is money, power, choice. And I grew up on a farm where there was a lot of regulation.
Interesting what's happening over here. Because everybody agreed on the fact that they know people who are affected by these regulations. And this gentleman over here, he started with doing a poll. He made an age-specific summary. But from there on, he should ask a question again. And let's see if he's really doing that.
Agriculture is very regulated, and then eventually there was this regulatory thing that came in called the Conservation Reserve Program, where we had to convert a part of our land to prairie. At the time, my dad was very angry because we lost money from that.
Actually, he's doing a good job because the other people are agreeing with him. So at least you can find some middle ground over here.
But that conservation area also created a buffer between the farm fields and the water to capture.
It would have been better if he would have asked something like, okay, we had these regulations, what do you think were the advantages of it? And then it was really pulling. But now he's pushing again. Let's see how it works.
Eroding soils so that it didn't go into the water and decrease the water quality. So I think there's certain regulations that we need to look at more long-term, look at the bigger picture, and although we may be losing money now, we could be earning it greater in the future. We need to look at it a bigger picture.
I really like your point about the water and the regulation of water, because I can remember that from a few years ago. And the reason they put that regulation in was because the snowpack wasn't there for that year. It's not like it was a random year where the government just said, start charging people for water. It's because the effect of climate change, one of the aspects of it is that we are not seeing consistent seasons. And
what she says could be a completely valid reason. But if you want other people to think about it, she should have asked a question. Okay, why do you think the government put in these regulations in place? What was the occasion that the government said, okay, this is what we need to do? And then just shut up and see what happens. If they know, they will give you an answer. If they don't know it, then they will ask you and you can do a little bit of pushing.
I completely agree with a regulation that limits the amount of water, amount of precious resource that we have to consumers.
A regulation a lot of us didn't like when the cost of gas went up here in California and we all had to have catalytic converters, but we've all agreed in this group that we're grateful that the air is clean like it wasn't when I was a kid. And we don't want those laws reversed because we'd be back to the smog we had when I was a kid. So those regulations may not have been great at the time, they may not have made people happy, but we've all learned to live with it and now we're grateful.
I'd like to bring up my concern about China again.
What you can see from his reaction is like, okay, are you done? Yes, good. Then I can say something. So whatever they said, it's not coming into their brain. They're not even thinking about it.
On some days, the pollution levels in China can be 10 to 50 times what they are here in Southern California. They simply assign their citizens to wear gas masks. And then they take the jobs, the manufacturing jobs that used to be in this area, have now gone to China.
I might be missing it, but are you saying that you would rather have that manufacturing be in California and that we all wear gas masks all the time?
Brilliant. Perhaps a little bit less opinion in it, but this is pulling. Let's see if she can continue with that.
That regulation that we have here that makes it expensive to have manufacturing here is what keeps us safe. That is what makes it expensive.
I think you're misunderstanding me. You could bring manufacturing back, just like President Trump has done in various parts of the United States, by just making the economics work. So we can still keep the clean air, but we don't need to keep beating down. Now, some of the regulations now are more severe than they were 50 years ago. And what you need to do is talk to some of these businessmen that are faced with this on a day-to-day basis.
Same for him. If he wants her to think about what he is saying, he should have asked questions about it. So he wants to make a point that it's not so easy for businessmen to cooperate in this environment, right? So instead of just pushing that information, you should have asked a question about it. Just imagine you are an entrepreneur and you have to deal with all these regulations. How does it feel? Now she has to respond to it. That would have had way more impact. Okay, let's see, almost halfway through the video. Yay, we reached a lot of common ground here. Not really.
Eco-friendly lifestyle is expensive.
Yeah. We all know we're paying twice as much for gas as the rest of the country. I pay an enormous amount for energy in my little tiny one-bedroom condo. Wind and solar have been subsidized. So, I mean, we've already paid a fortune for it all.
You know, why not put some of these regulations to a vote instead of the EPA and all the rest of these administrative arms placing these regulations on us, taking more and redistributing more of our wealth or more of our money to pay for something that we're not even going to use or benefit from.
This is what you get when you put three people together that already agree. They just confirm their beliefs, that's it. And you can push as much as you want because they still believe you. But what really changed? Nothing. They're already on the same page.
An eco-conscious lifestyle does not need to be expensive. There are incentives that are built into our policy that encourage.
The expression on her face, it's great, because she's coming up with a statement again, and that's pushing. She knew already that especially Michael would disagree on it. So instead of pushing that information, she should have started with doing pulling.
Encourage people to live a more eco-conscious lifestyle, because you have control over that. A lot of things we don't have control over, but you have control over how much you're buying at a grocery store and how much you're deciding to throw away. And minimize that, scale it back in all regard, in how far you're driving, in the water, in the electricity, in all of the different sectors that impact climate change. So you have the decision to make of how much you're going to use, and there are direct cost savings with not being so wasteful.
I'm also an example of that. I drive an electric car, and it's not that hard in Los Angeles
Sure, just put in some extra reasons just to convince him.
to get it charged. And in the future, it's going to be much easier for more and more people to have electric cars, especially as the cost of internal combustion engines keeps adding up. I spend a tremendous amount of time recycling plastic, recycling aluminum, and about every 6 months I go to the recycle yard myself, and it pays off very handsomely. Aluminum is extremely valuable. There's a lot of small choices and a lot of larger choices, and you can make those choices quite easily. I mean, our entire yard is now all drought-resistant plants.
That is your...
So two people gave a lot of reasoning why it's not expensive. And let's see if the other people are convinced.
That is your choice. Yeah. But what you are talking about is making choices for me.
No, you can choose to keep using water, but you're going to pay for it. You can choose to still have your green lawn. No one is coming around and saying you cannot do that.
So interesting. Because the more they push, the more they feel attacked. The more they feel attacked, the more they push. Great to see.
But you are going to pay for it.
Look, we can have a middle ground on this. There's a lot of...
Don't forget, it's about the middle ground. Good point.
A lot of people that believe in these things that are totally separate from the role of climate change. And a lot of these recycling and energy efficiency policies are very good. And I think most people would agree with them, and most of people are trying to adhere to them. I think what we're talking about, again, is the imposition, whether you force people to have drought-resistant lawns or you force people to have solar panels on their roof. I don't see any reason why people can't make choices like that on their own.
When it comes...
So this gentleman made a very valid point. So they should capitalize on this. Both parties, by the way. So they're not disagreeing on some parts, but somebody had to do a little bit of pulling, in this case an A-specific summary, where they said, okay, if I listen to both parties, we all agree on the fact that some of it is good. The only thing we need to take care of is the individual. Am I right? And I know for sure if somebody would have done that, all 6 of them would have said, yes, that's true. But they didn't.
Down to it, like those choices we make, what we buy, whatever we vote on, it doesn't have to be expensive. But what we're trying to do is prevent these costs from getting bigger long term. I mean, I think we just simply need to change some of our choices and be a little altruistic.
I worry about our future.
To make this world a better place, we have to start understanding before we try to be understood. And that's why you need pulling.
Yes, I definitely worry about our future. It's something I think about a lot. Because I watch and because I work with the data from climate science all over the country and all over the world, and I especially worry because I have 3 young sons, one of whom just has his birthday today, and I'm very worried that the planet they're going to inherit is already going to be much, much more difficult to live on than the one I inherited or one my parents gave to me.
The Constitution preamble, last part of it says, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. I'm concerned about them having liberty, having the freedom. Some people think that we don't have the right to choose, how we should live. I mean, because you want to enforce your way of life on others.
I have 4 grandsons that I love more than life. I fear for their future that they are going to be living in a socialist country, because this is what this leads to. I don't have a voice in this state at all. I have no voice.
I worry about the future because I have 4 nieces, a nephew, and I'd like to have a family of my own someday and have kids. And so I think about the future and how degraded the environment could be, or how the amount of CO2 we're putting into the air and greenhouse gases increases. But I'm hopeful, because I've found that there are people living in way worse conditions than I am, and they're full of hope because they understand that they have choices, that they can work hard to make a better life for themselves. I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, I'm gonna make choices that improve the environment, improve public health, and leave this place better for the future generations. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, everyone.
I have to say something about this because this program is about middle ground. And funny enough, finally they reached common ground. Because all 5 of them are worried about the future. Of course, for different reasons, but nobody's pinpointing that. If you pinpoint that by using a specific summary, you will see that, okay, we're at least on the same page. Again, try to understand before you will try to be understood. Let's see what the lady says.
Why is she?
I'm not in fear. I have made the choice to not have children, and I honor that decision, and we all have that choice. And I don't operate from a place of fear. A big question that I don't know if we've addressed today or if we ever will address is who takes responsibility for the impact that we're having, because we know that we have an impact. So I just believe in using our purchasing power, our political power through our vote, through supporting policies that are going to create healthier communities, and basically doing the best that we can so that we can continue to enjoy our environment now and for future generations.
Hey, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
What I always find so interesting about these discussions is that we think we are far apart from each other. And if you listen very carefully, it's not the case. We all want to have a better future. We all want to have prosperity. So that's not the issue. But the issue is, how do we get there? If we start pulling, if we start listening to each other, try to understand each other, for sure, this world will be a better place. However, when I watched this video, the goal is to create common ground. They didn't reach any common ground at all. In our line of business, it's always about how to impact people. The only way doing it is pulling. So this is a highly controversial topic, but also if you're in the office, or if you're a salesperson, or if you're a manager, it's also about pulling. If you want to make an impact, the only way you can do it is by using pull techniques. Pushing does not have an impact on people at all, definitely. If you like these kind of React videos, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you subscribe. See you in the next video.